Howdy folks. I'll tell you what, the struggle is real. The delays have been many and varied, but I think we're finally here. Hi, I'm Heather's chubby hubby and I'm a blacksmith sometimes. Well, unfortunately, as things stand right now, I don't have an official blacksmith shop. I have my workshop, which normally right now I set my equipment up out in front of, outside, to do any blacksmithing. It works. It's not ideal. Even in the summertime you get rain days where you want to do a little pounding and it's a no-go. And I've tried to set up one of them right in the doorway with the fan behind me blowing, and it helps, but it's still, there's a lot of little tiny particles of coal and it's a mess. So, barring building an actual smithy, my options are corner off a section of the shop. You can't make this stuff up, folks. Well, anyway, where were we? This day has been difficult. I have attempted this several times now and have been interrupted numerous ones. But anyway, so as I was saying, not set up to do coal in the shop. That's actually my preferred fuel. But given the realities, I had planned on and still have plans to make an actual large propane forge, but I'm going to do it with forced air, which gives you better heat and control, and it also uses less fuel. So, but that's down the road a ways too. In the meantime, I have little parts and medium-sized projects that if I could do in the winter in here without having to worry about ventilation, life would be a lot better. Early December, I'm watching the YouTubes and I came across a video. Stainless steel propane forge from Amazon for less than $100. And I watched it and I thought, oh, that looks pretty cool. So I ordered one and it got here in probably mid-December, and that's when we started running into trouble. So this little box has actually been in our storeroom for quite a few months now, and because of that, it's thrown the other production schedules off, which that'll be more clear in a future video very shortly, hopefully. So anyway, let's get this puppy unboxed and I'll tell you a little bit about it. This is a Mr. Volcano Hero propane forge. Our price on Amazon with tax, and it was $88 for the unit, and then with the sales tax it ended up being $93 total. So let's see what we got here. Mr. Volcano Hero Propane Hobbyist and Artist Blacksmith Forge from the Mr. Volcano store in Maple Grove, Minnesota. So, yay. Something that's not made in China. Don't need those. We have our regulator, which this is a 20 psi. I've seen other videos, build videos on these and review videos, and they're like, oh, it should have been a 30. Honestly, given the size of this thing, I mean, yeah, it could be a 30, but I don't know you're going to gain a whole lot. You can forge weld with this thing. That's hot enough. So, given the size of this, and I mean, even a 20 psi, and this is the other thing about this kit, you know, I could buy all this stuff, and building one of these wouldn't be very hard. It's sourcing the components and doing it for less than a couple $100. I mean, you know, you're not going to pick this up for 15 bucks at Walmart. So its kit comes, this is satinite refractory clay or mortar. We're going to mix this up, and it's going to cover the KO wool blanket. This is what protects you and the KO wool blanket from each other, so to speak. This is the burner assembly, control valve. It's all stainless steel. Looks, I mean, it's pretty thick. I mean, this is not thin, you know, I don't know what gauge it is. I'll get my gauge thing in a minute and tell you, but I mean, this is not, I wouldn't want to get whacked with this. Let's put it that way. And this is the body of the forge, which I'm going to adjust the camera a little bit here. Rather see the forge than me anyway, probably. Alright, this is the KO wool blanket. This is kind of cool too. This is an extra bag that they include because, you know, this refractory clay or mortar or whatever you want to call it is good stuff. It's not very tough. It doesn't take much of a ding or a bang. Or even, like, this is stiff enough it shouldn't be an issue, but if you were to twist this, you would probably crack the mortar. It's not very tough stuff. Very high temperature. It's not super tough. But this, they include an extra bag so you have stuff to patch or fill gaps or cracks if they should form, which they will. And this here is a fire brick, which I've seen some of the guys say basically they only use it when they forge weld. Honestly, I think I'm going to probably use this pretty much when I do any hot work in the thing, so to speak. Because, again, the floor of this is going to be satinite refractory mortar, and it's just not very tough. This sits on top of that. It's a consumable, easily replaced. I need to do some more checking, but see, this doesn't look exactly like the ones I've gotten from Harbor Freight or from Tractor Supply for our stoves, but they're, you know, I just checked the other night and I think they've gone up in price like a lot of other stuff quite a bit, but it was $4 a brick. So, you know, it makes sense to use this. If something happens to this, it's easier to replace than all the stuff inside. And this is the body of this is the body of the forge. Like I said, it's not very big. This is where the fuel inlet goes in. This assembly slides in here, and it sticks in just a little ways, and this is where your fuel enters, right in the middle of the forge. So, a couple of criticisms I've seen about this. These are spot welded. You can see it a little better, and this is spot welded onto here. Well, it looks like, yeah, it's okay. Mine's okay, but one fella hadn't even finished building his when he used the hot drying method. He actually burned propane in it to dry the satinite and dry the blanket, and then the satinite, and one of his little spot welds popped loose. So I kind of debated whether I should just take it right down to the local welding shop and have them run a nice bead around, but they're busy and I kind of want to get this done that little bit. If one of those pops, it's not going to be the end of the world. I can just drill it and run a bolt through it later. So everything's included. This is Rigidizer concentrate, 1-to-1 ratio. What this does, you spray your KO wool blanket with a light coating of water, and then you spray this on top of it and then install it in the forge. As the Rigidizer dries, it stiffens this. There's a couple of really good things about that. We're going to go into a little safety talk real quick here. This stuff is, I've done a little bit of checking. Most concern with this seemed to be when it was heated. But I'm not going to take any chances. When I get to the point where I'm going to start spraying this, i.e. take it out of this bag, I'm going to be wearing a respirator and I won't be talking. I'll just be doing some spraying and then I'll edit it down so you don't have to watch the whole process. But this is the kind of fiber that has hooks on it, like a fish hook, a barb, like asbestos or some other nasties. You know, fiberglass insulation will irritate your lungs, but it's also straight and it will come out. Asbestos and this will not. Most of the, like I said, most of the danger I've heard about this is when you heat it. That's when those little fibers are more likely to break off. But, I mean, just opening and folding and everything, I don't want to take the chance, and I don't want anybody else to. If anybody follows my example and does this, please wear a respirator. Not just an N95 mask, an actual paint respirator with filters on it. So, you got to protect yourselves. You only get 2 lungs, and if you booger them up, then it's not going to be good. Alright folks, I got my little metal gauge here. I'm kind of curious to see what gauge this specs out at. Looks like 16 gauge for the body. It's between 14 gauge and 1/8 inch. So, I don't know what that'd work out to be. Same with this burner tube. It's just, well, it's not quite. I don't know if there's a 12 gauge metal, but like I said, it won't fit in the 14 slot. It's too big for, or too small for the 1/8 inch. So let's get started building this. Maybe these will come in handy. Sorry about that, folks. Let's see. Uncurl the ceramic fiber blanket and place it on a flat surface. Mix Rigidizer, concentrate 1-to-1 with water. Shake vigorously. Spray water lightly on all sides of the blanket. This is done to prepare the blanket for the process of applying the Rigidizer. Then you spray the Rigidizer on all sides of the blanket. Use all 16 ounces. Cover evenly. Make sure the entire blanket is red. And then as it's still wet, you install the blanket inside the forge. Now they have an air drying option or a fired up drying option. I'm going to do a third option, which is put it by the old wood stove overnight, probably rotate it several times during the evening and let that do the work.